Good morning. So yesterday we finished off with the tshuva from Rav Moshe Steinbuch. Yes, Rav Moshe Steinbuch quotes the Brisker Rav to that's Tshuva Sanhogas, source 5 on your sheets, to understand the Rambam in Hilchas Mamrim, right? Where the Rambam introduces the idea of Tinuk Shenishba, which would appear to be a challenge to his own position on what he wrote in Hilchas Tshuva. In Hilchas Tshuva, he writes, you make a mistake, doesn't matter. But it doesn't matter where it comes from. He argues with the Rambam, with the Raavad, right? A mistake doesn't matter, it's a mistake. And Reb Chaim Brisker understands that, and so does the Ur Sameach, that a mistake in Emunah doesn't matter whether it's a mistake or not. L'maisa, you are a kofer. There's no get out clause. There's no wiggle room. The question that we've dealt with until now is the Rambam appears to contradict himself in Hilchos Mamrim, where he talks about the great grandchildren of those who the Karoim, second, third generation reform, etc. They knew no better, and there he says they are treated. We have to be machzir and b'tshuva. He says they are oinus. How do we reconcile the two Rambams? That's what we dealt with yesterday. So the Brisker Rav, Moshe Steinbuch quoted the Brisker Rav as saying that there are some extra words in the Rambam, which I looked up, by the way. It's interesting, there's different girsois in the Rambam. And the Rambam, he emphasizes that the fact that it says, ve'ein lemaher lahoirgam, meaning we should not be hasty to harm them in any way. The Brisker Rav therefore understands that these two Rambams are entirely compatible with the Reb Chaim's interpretation, Dahainu, i.e., that really, as he writes in Hilchos Tshuva, somebody who is an apikoros, even a Nebuchadnezzar apikoros, is an apikoros, but we won't put it into effect, and there is some, as a practical approach, we will not be hasty to harm them. But these two Rambams are totally compatible, and that's what we saw yesterday. We move on today to a different source 6 on page 4. On the sheets, yeah? So, Shailas Utshuvas Rabbeinu Rebeliyahu Mizrahi. So, an early Achron, right? So, it's very important, the Mizrahi, on the Chumash, so he's an early Achron. So it's a very important, his viewpoint, yeah? Let's have a look. So here he's talking about the Karoim. V'oid, source 6. V'oid, says the Mizrahi, V'oid, she'ena Karoim ha'elu me'esam ha'minim ha'kofrim tchila b'torah shabal peh, kama ha'tzadik u'baitus, shehem me'atzmom mimachshavtom yotzu leminus v'kofru b'torah shabal peh, b'shot nefesh. He was dealing with the status of the Karaites, right? So the Karaim reject the authority, the validity of Torah Shabbal Peh, and the question is, how do we relate to them? Mm-hmm. Okay, let me just. Sorry, b'shot nefesh means willfully, assertively, aggressively. That's the lashon. Let me just remind myself, going back to the Rambam and Hilchas Mamrim. Does he use the word karoim? I think he does. Let me just check. Yes, karoim. So the karoim are referenced in the Rambam we learned yesterday. Yes? Towards the end of Halacha Gimel.
What does it say?
I said towards the end. The penultimate line in Halacha Gimel. Middle of the line. But okay, some hakaroim sheto'u. So the Rambam in Hilchas Mamrim is definitely clearly talking about the karoim. And there he says, well, the question is, what does he say? The Brisker Rav understands that what he says is they're totally apikorosim. The fact that they are the grandchildren and their third generation reform is irrelevant. It just means ein lemaher lahoirgam. That's how the Brisker Rav understood the Rambam. Let's see how the Mizrahi understood the Rambam hundreds of years before. That's the context. This is a tshuva. I know it's a long one, but we'll rush through it, and I've highlighted the bits that are important. And what is very fascinating here, I'll give the game away, spoiler alert, he is going to quote a tshuva from the Rambam. I haven't spent time doing an extensive research to see who else quotes this tshuva. whether it's in Pe'er Hadoir. There are different versions of the different shuvas of the Rambam. I didn't have the time or the inclination to do it, but he's going to quote two things. He's going to quote a tshuva of the Rambam and a tshuva of Rav Haigon. Okay? Let's see. So what is the context? How do we view second, third, fourth generation Karoim? Are they proper Apikorasim? Etc. Let's see. So that's the context. Follow with me. These are not the same. These Karaim do not have the same status as the first generation Chevra who went off. Did so knowing better. They should have known better. And they chose Yoidim Riboinam Miskaven Limroid Boy, right? So then we say that they are min hamoiridim. Aval elu hakaroim heim bnei oisam aminim u bnei bneiim korov le alpayim shana me'oz ad hayom hazeh. It's been a long time. V'heim doimim letinik shenishba ben agoyim shenishtaka mimenu teras hayadus. They are exactly like a tinik shenishba. It's not their fault. They've had no connection to Teras Hayadus. She'afal pisha shama achakach shehu Yehudi ein anu mitzuvim la'anishay mipnei shehu onus. Shahari Gidluhu Agoyim Al Ta'usam V'chein Kosav Rambam Zal Peragim Hilchas Mamri. So he references our Rambam. Yes? Mishaina Mamedim B'Shem Torah Shabal Peh Ein Lo Yizakin Mamri Omer B'Torah He's B'chlal Aminim U'Misosem B'dei Kol Odom Me'achshin Spasam Shukay B'Amedvar Mamuri. I'm rushing ahead because he's just going to go through the three halachas we learnt yesterday. Yes? First, beginning of the B'Amedvar Mamuri B'Shkofa B'Torah B'Al Peh B'Machshavtoi B'Dvarim Shenirulev Holach HaChashrius Liboy V'Chadati HaKolav V'chein Kol HaToy Avol B'nei HaToyim U'B'nei B'neihem Shehidichos Amavisei V'Nel B'Minas V'Gilas V'Harein Continuing Shanishba over the page. He's just quoting, sorry, I'm just saving you time. He's just quoting the Rambam. We've done this. Lefichach roy lachzirim b'tshuva u'lemashchem b'darkei shalom ad sheyachzuru la'isan ha'torah v'lo yamar adam lahoirgam ad kan. Now this is important. We're now on the third line on page 5. Yes. Ve'ein ledakdeik mimamar al yimahir adam lahoirgam michlal. Pardon?
Where is that now?
Third line on page 5.
Second.
Ve'ein ledakdeik mimamar al yimahir adam lahirgam michlal sheroi lahirgam acharei shehishtadel lachzirim b'tshuva v'lo yirotzu lishmoya. Do not learn, says the Mizrahi, do not learn pshat in the Rambam like the Briskerov learned pshat in the Rambam. Das steht in Mizrahi. The Briskerov trying to make his father Reb Chaim's view compatible with what he said Hilchas Tshuva to Hilchas Mamrim. So he put all of his emphasis, as we learned yesterday from Rav Moshe Sternbuch, by saying those are the telling words. That's the giveaway. Those are the words in the Rambam that define it. V'al yimay adam lahergam. Give them a chance. Be machzir them b'tshuva. Does that mean, says the Mizrahi, that fundamentally they are still kofrim, but just we give them a chance, which is how the Brisker Rav understood? Says the Mizrahi, no, that's not pshat. Do not learn, because then what would be the outcome? Halacha l'maisa, that once you did have you sent them to a Kirov seminar and you were nice to them and you did your best, and they turned around and said no way. Well, then it would appear according to the Rambam they lose that get out clause for a bit, and they go back to being regular minimum kofrim, and it would be roy lahorgam. Chas v'shalom, says the Radvaz. Says the Mizrahi. You see this? I should really have put this in bold. The ain ledaktek mimamar al yimar odom lahorgam michlal sheroy lahorgam. Once you tried and they didn't think. Why? How do I know that's not pshat? Shehari kavadima oisem notinik shenishba lebein agoyim she'enoi ben moves klal. Because the Rambam, as if gleich, he clearly compared them to a tinnik. He used the halachic term from the Gemara in Shabbos. He's a tinnik shenishba, that he's not a ben moves at all. V'afal pishalei rotzadot shebitshuva. Midka amareu ka'onus. The Rambam uses the word onus. Onus means this is something beyond your control and you are not held liable at all. Onus potter mimisa. We learn from the Gemara. What do we see from this Mizrahi?
Goes against the Rambam. against the second thing that was brought with the last. No, against the interpretation of
He
that
goes
last
against the Briskarov's interpretation. We have in Hilchos Mamrim. He learns the Rambam in Hilchos Mamrim kipshutai.
How else can you understand what the Rambam said?
What do you mean?
Say al dema maher le'agoy.
The question. So Briskarov again.
So means
Briskarov
the
understood
children.
it that fundamentally these. Remember, so far we have two Rambams. We're going to come to a third one soon, hopefully today. So far we've had the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva and the Rambam in Hilchos Mamrim. In Hilchos Tshuva again, he seems to say that that you are a kofer if you mistakenly think that Hashem can have a body, you're still a kofer. In Hilchos Mamrim, he says, well, if you're second, third generation, you're an oines, you're tinik shenishba. How do we reconcile the two? So the Briskarov did it by saying they're really totally compatible. The Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva is the main point, and here it just means, of course, you are an apikoros, you are a min, but we'll give you a chance. Says the Mizrahi, no, that's not what it means. Now, the Mizrahi now has a problem. What's the Mizrahi's problem? How is the Mizrahi going to understand the Machlekes Rambam and Ravid in Hilchos Tshuva? Good point. That's where we're up to. Are we good? Are we clear? Still looking a little bit, you're frowning at me.
I thought his problem is how to reconcile the two Rambam that are contradicting each other, not the Rambam and Ravid.
Yes, sorry. The two Rambams. How do we? Yes, yeah. We don't need the Rambam and Ravid in Tshuva is a machlekes. That's for sure. But how is the Mizrahi now going to reconcile those two Rambams? Let's see. So far, so good. Weiter. Are you good?
Oh, Hashem.
Okay. Now I meant so you're with me. You got it. Yes.
It's hard to be with the Rav because your rhythm is different than my rhythm. But I'm trying to do my best, of course.
Nesafa?
No, not because of the language, because of the rhythm.
The rhythm.
The rhythm, yeah.
אני מהר יותר מדי.
No, don't take it as a...
Okay.
Everybody has his temperament, you know?
Correct. Oh, the question is, are we clear? Are we... אנחנו ביחד.
Always.
Okay. I meant, do you understand where we're up to? That's all. We'll say that. Good. V'ayit. Sorry, I'm just checking in, that's all. V'ayit. Now, here, this is really, really interesting. Here, the Mizrahi quotes a Tshuva Saramba. And here's the Shaila, Rabbi Say. Hal Shaila halocha l'maisa. Which is something you have to understand in the Artzot HaMizrach, in the Orient. These were the Shailas that they dealt with on a regular basis. I'm living in Kushta, I'm living in Constantinople, I'm living in wherever. And I have a flourishing Karaite Kehillah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there were Kehillas of Karaite, for sure.
In Turkey?
Wherever, I'm riffing, I'm just surmising.
Yeah.
And this is a Shaila, the Rambam wrote a tshuva. Somebody asked him a Shaila, here, we have a Karai Kehillah, they do bris milah, it's Shabbos, I'm a moil, can I be Mechal Shabbos and be Mal, the child of Karoim? That was a Shaila halacha l'maisa. That's what he's dealing with. Let's see what he says. V'oid. Shekvar motzonu b'tshuva shehishev harambam zal al elu hakaroim im ro'i lomol es b'neihem b'Shabbos. What do you do? That was the Shaila. V'omar sheroi listen to this. Sheroi lechalek lohem kovoid. Be mechabed the Karoim. Lehiskarev etzlom b'ma'asei yosher. Deal with them nicely, with integrity, with yashrus. Ulehisnahig imam b'midas ha'anova ubederech ha'emes v'hashalom. Be humble. Don't be aggressive. The fact that you are right and they are reform or karoim, don't be condescending, don't be patronizing, don't be rude, be civil. Have a bit of humility. Use the darkei ha'emes and shalom and yosher. Kol zeman shegam he misnahagu imonu bitmimus. As long as they are being civil to us, as long as we have a good working relationship, that's fine. V'yosir mehem akshus peh v'lazus svasayim miledaber toya al divrei chachomim shebedoyer. And remove from them the hardness of the mouth. It's hard to translate exactly. They in other words, endeavor to make sure that there is shalom, that they don't speak negatively about chachamim. Shebadoir. Behave well. Don't give them any excuse to turn around and say that religious Jew is not a mensch. You see, it's not a new problem. Yeah. There's a Tshuvas Rambam with Karoim. Probably be the equivalent of reform. Reject Torah Shabbal Peh. Yesh, but okay. Ubezois nochen lanu lechabdom v'loleches lishoil b'shloimom afilu b'vatehem. And therefore we should go and be nice to them and ask them how they are, even go to their houses. V'lomo les b'neihem v'afilu b'shabbos v'likber es meisehem ulenachem avaleihem.
Wow.
We should be mal their children even b'Shabbos. The Gemeinde should bury their dead, and we should go and be menachem ovel to them. That is the tshuva of the Rambam. Fascinating tshuva in itself, no? Quite fascinating. Now, I believe this is where the Mizrahi takes over, and here is commentary on this tshuva Rambam. Ve'im heim b'nei moves. And if they are b'nei moves, they deserve misa. If they are, this is the Mizrahi saying, he's going back to prove that his position in the understanding of the Rambam and Hilchos Mamrim is the correct one. That don't say, remember, let me remind you, don't say Val Yemahir Adam Lahoirgan means, like the Briskerov, try and have an attempt to do tshuva, but if not, they're really apikosim and meridin v'lei malin, as we would in those days. Don't say that. Says the Mizrahi, das kann nicht sein. Once you've seen the tshuva of the Rambam, which was a tshuva, halacha l'maisa, how to deal with karoim, they are kaifrim b'Torah Shabbal Peh, which is exactly what he was talking about the Rambam in Hilchos Mamrim. So it's exactly, and they are second, third, fourth generation. He said they've been with us for 1,000 years. Says the Mizrahi, ve'im heim b'nei moves, achar he'eder hatshuva, and if indeed they are culpable and they are worthy, we should be the b'nei moves, achar he'eder hatshuva, if they don't do tshuva once we've asked them to and tried to persuade them, ha'eich anachnu shoylim b'shleimam, Rebbeinu dekula alma. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot say that the halachic status of this person is really, once you've tried doing tshuva to them, they're now really they're b'nei moves, right? If you learn a very strict, literalist, maximalist position in the Rambam, or minimalist, whichever way you want, in the Rambam, that means that once you've tried doing tshuva and they don't, then they are b'nei moves. So you're at the one. So you can't say at the same time they're b'nei moves, but go and say how they are. Find out how they are. Be shol b'shleima, be menachem evleim, but kill them. They're just incompatible. It's svar pshuta. He says that cannot be pshat. Can't be. He's using the tshuva of the Rambam to say that can't be pshat in the Rambam Hilchos Mamrim. Beautiful. It's just so. It's elegant. It's logical. It's so rational. Again, the imheim b'nei moves hachaheder tshuva ha'eichanu shoylim b'shleimam umalim es b'neiim v'afilu b'shabbos. V'halei b'zman mu'at yibochen v'yizbarer adovim yashuvu b'tshuva imloi. Ume'acha shekenu loma nechalel haShabbos b'milas b'neiim shehem b'nei k'tola. So you're telling me that what happened? I should be mechalel Shabbos to do mila for their children, and the children be'etzem themselves are b'nei misa. It doesn't make any sense. V'oid what?
K'tola is misa.
Yeah.
K'tola b'nei k'tola.
Yeah. So that's the Aramaic. That's how you say misa in Aramaic. V'oid shezois hatshuva. He's not talking about a newly migrants who have just arrived from wherever. Karoim who just arrived in the city. No, we're talking about an existing, long-standing situation. A well-established kehillah of apikorim and kofrim. Yeah? A what?
With Messiah.
With a Messiah in that because Nish Poshet, yeah. Aval he medaberes ala rabbonim v'hakaroim hayoshvim be'ir acheres. He calls them rabbonim, by the way, which is also interesting. Okay, yeah. Be'ir acheres zman kadman ki ilu taimer hayom 1000 shana. Ha'echis nahagu harabbonim b'milas b'neihem. V'advorim yiduim. Shekol ze hazman ha'orach kva bikshu rabbonim mehem v'loshuv. What is he gaining by saying that they've been there a long time? That means we've had interaction with them. We've made kiruv seminars. We've tried for 1,000 years. Zagonish geholfen.
We never give up.
Of course we never give up. But 1,000 years later, after having tried, the Rambam is writing is still mechuyev to be Menachem Oval and to bury their dead and to be Mechal Shabbos, to be do Mila to Bneihem.
Yeah.
So that's just incompatible. It's inconceivable
Yeah.
that should be compatible with saying that they are Bnei Mavis. That can't be pshat. So he's reimagining, he's refashioning. Going back to the Rambam in Hilchos Mamrim, we have to learn differently the pshat in the Rambam in Hilchos Mamrim. Okay. And he goes on more and more, but I don't want to go through the whole thing. It's some beautiful stuff here, but I just want to he makes one more point. I'll just quickly say it outside, that he says as long as there is some mutual respect, I would, if I may, I know I'm on camera, but in 2 weeks' time I will be not this Motz. Is it this Motzei Shabbos? No. In 2 weeks' time, I'll be going to Munich for the Zentralrat Versammlung, right? And it's a fascinating thing. I tell it to my colleagues, and it's really, really interesting. It's really fascinating. What happens there is the equivalent in England would be the Board of Deputies, right? It's a body. The official political representative of the Jews in England is the Board of Deputies. It was created by an act of Parliament in, I think, 17 something, or I don't know. I don't know. Now it's a secular organisation. It's probably the equivalent of the Zentralrat that we have over here. It is the official body that is recognised by the government for all purposes for the representation of Jews in Germany. So we have one in England. It's called the Board of Deputies. Now, I can guarantee you, when the Board of Deputies in the UK has their annual conference, they do not invite all the Rabbonim of the United Synagogue, right? Here, it's a fascinating thing. What happens is, I'm going to go to Munich. I'm going to fly to Munich Motzei Shabbos. They have a dinner. It's all the, so this is all the Zentralrat, the Präsidium, the Vorsitz, the Vorstand, the Vorsitzende, and all this sort of stuff, and all of the delegates from all of the different communities in Germany, and they must have a good 100 people, if not more, and they invite and pay for all the Rabbonim of the ORD and the ARK, which is the liberal, our liberal progressive.
The Zentralrat is representing both.
They pay for both. They pay for both.
For the Orthodox
yes.
The Reform.
They pay for the ORD based in, and they pay Lahavdil also for the ARK. Yes, they are a secular body, but they pay for, and they therefore pay. They don't take a view. To be careful what I say on camera, although doesn't matter. Look, when we had Gemeindetag, we had to remember you were a Gemeindetag. Friday night there were 2 minyanim, right? There were 2 million on Friday night. There was a big like Kalbach singing happy clappy from Friday night, and and they, what do we have, 500-600 people in one. The Liberals had what, 50, 60? They know the shul they don't daven at. That's doesn't matter. The point is there is and this is the point that I wanted to make here, is there's mutual respect. They invite Rabbanim. Now, we can't vote, obviously, but the hall is divided into two parts. There'll be a big hall, and all the delegates are up there, and Schuster and Baerbock might come and speak, or whoever. It's an important thing. The TV is there. And there's two parts to the hall. So there's all the delegates and communal representatives on one side, and on the other side are the Rabbanim and Rabbinerin, and they pay for and host, and that's just a mark of respect as religious leaders. So we can't vote or thing, which is fine. Avichai, I'll tell you, it was a Kiddush Hashem. Last year, it was in Frankfurt, and Rav Avichai, made to my mind, was an incredible Kiddush Hashem. First of all, they started the Presidium and everything by saying Tehillim. Everybody stood up and said Tehillim. He led everybody in Tehillim. And then he gave his opening remarks. He gave a hesped on Dainer and Troisatzal. And I was thinking to myself, I'm sitting in Frankfurt with all of the representatives of all the Jewish communities in Germany. And the vast majority of them are secular. And Rav Appel is standing there and giving a passionate hesped for Dainer and Troisatzal and pointing out how he helped build up the Rabbiner seminar, etc. And I thought, what a Kiddush Hashem. And that wouldn't happen in the UK. I don't think. Not in that sort of thing. And there is something to be said. And that's why I'm mentioning it at this juncture. The mutual respect. And there I encounter and say hello to and sit down and have a coffee with Rabbinerin, whoever, this, that, or the other, and have built up a cordial relationship. Now they know I'm not going to go to their shul. I'm not going to go to Oranienburger Strasse on Shabbos, well, mainly because they don't have a minyan. But I have the phone numbers and a working relationship with the clergy of the other streams. And this is what the Rambam is saying over here.
Nice.
But what if you know that they're not Jewish?
Sorry?
What if you know that they're not even Jewish?
Doesn't matter. Legabe what? I'm not being Mechal Shabbos to be Mal B'neihem, and I'm not being, but
aren't you?
I'm not doing anything.
But aren't you like, if someone sees your regarding whatever, it's kind of a acceptance of them as a
No,
Jewish.
it's not. I don't view that as being any sort of acceptance of anything. It's very clear. They know that when it comes to,
As long as you accept them as people. Like,
they know that there is no not interfaith, but any ecumenical. We don't swap pulpits. We don't do any religious ceremonies together at all, and they know that, and so I think the ground is clear. I don't think there's any confusion or obscurity. I don't think so. I understand what you're saying, but it's also hakol as man v'mokim. I've got more to say, but I don't want to do it on camera. I'll tell you later.
yeah.
And it's important to note what might be right in one place might be wrong in another. And for that one needs also das Torah, and one needs to, yeah. No, but the context is very important. Okay, and the Rambam here makes this point in the Tshuva that as long as they are not mezalzel in Chazal and mezalzel in the Rabbonim, then there's mutual respect. That does not mean, you see, he says, look, to go to their houses, to be even to be Mechal Shabbos Lomel B'neihem. It's quite remarkable. He then goes on. If I can draw your attention, go about 3/4 of the way down. The line starts with the word she'ein. Please find it. The line starts about 3/4 of the way down. The line starts with the word she'ein. She'ein roi lahorgam. And then ve'imkein al korchach. Go towards the end of the line. Ve'imkein al korchach lefarish ma'amar lo yemar lahorgam. He says that Mizrahi. Therefore, the pshat in lo yemar lahorgam must mean k'may lo yahargam. It doesn't mean lo yemaher, like the Brisker Rav understood, but if necessary we would. He says no, that you have to say pshat in the Rambam is not lo yahargam at all. V'yemaher denokat lav davka elo lafu keim mitzodek ubeitus atzmam sheroi lemaher lahorgam. Because when it comes to the fathers of the movement, those who are starting off a schism and deliberately denying the validity of Torah as we know it, then there's no hesitation. You do go in and do what you have to do. And he contrasts that by saying, Lo yemar lahorgam, but that doesn't mean that you should be horig them, but not the maher. No, cannot be. So he makes this very clear. Fine. Right, finished. Now go to the next bit. V'chosav Rabbeinu Haigon. I've got it in bold. Okay? What's the problem? We're just continuing on the same page. You with us? Yeah, sorry. You looked. Yeah. V'chosav Rabbeinu Haigon. Says Rav Haigon. And now here he quotes. Here's the Mizrahi quoting Rav Haigon. Ule'inyan mila. So this is going back. We're now going back further back from the Rambam. We're going back to Bavel in the 9th century. We're going back at least 100, if not 150, possibly 200 years before the Rambam. So we're going right back. Rav Haigon. Says Rav Haigon, Ule'inyan mila me'olam lo nimnu rabboseinu aleim hasholom milomu les b'neiim shel karoim b'Shabbos. So here we have a tradition from Rav Haigon that we do mila on the karoim b'Shabbos, and nobody ever said we shouldn't do it. Ki efsha sheyachzru lemutav ve'ein ma'virin aleim. Because maybe Shema Yachziru L'Mutav. Mashma midivri agon zal shmeachashu min ha'efsha sheyachzu lemutav bizman ma ro'oi lanu lomeles b'neim b'Shabbos. Even though we tried and we didn't manage. So he does ask a bit of a question from a Rambam Pirush Mishnayos. So what do we have here? So what we have here is a different viewpoint to the Briskerov, very much so, in the understanding of the Rambam in Hilchos Mamrim. This would also appear to be the opinion of the Radvaz. Chaval, I have not printed it out for you yet, although I have it. It would be a nice idea to see the Radvaz, but we'll have to leave that. We'll leave that for another time. This is also the approach of the Radvaz and the Babit and others. Okay? I want to do two more small things today before we go further, and they are as follows. The Merkevas HaMishnah, okay, in a short comment on the Rambam Hilchos Tshuva, this is source 7, says as follows. It's in Hilchos Tshuva on the Machlekes Rambam and Raavad. It says that the Merkevas HaMishnah ubahasogus v'tomani devadai kol min b'datei shayemes itoi. So the right bahasogus is the Raavad. The Raavad says gdoilim v'toivim mimenu believed in the Hagshama. They made a mistake. Are you telling me there ain't a chelik l'olam haba? That's what the Raavad says. Says the Merkevas HaMishnah v'tomani. What sort of an argument is that? So you're saying that they made a mistake. V'tomani, v'adai, every min thinks he's right. And he made a mistake. That's what being a min is. Being a min is that you think that you are right, and the other person is wrong. You think that Hashem can have a body. So what sort of a question is that? How is that a challenge? In other words, he's challenging the Raavad. How is that a challenge on the Rambam? Oh, this fellow made a mistake, and he honestly thought that Hashem had a body. Duh. Every min thinks that they're right. Now why? The chomir shigagas emuna zara dehavalei lemeidak. When it comes to, this is reminiscent of Reb Chaim and of the Sameach, that when it comes to emuna, you are held liable. You ought to have checked. You ought to have been able to arrive at the right conclusion. There's an expectation that you should arrive at the right conclusion, and if you didn't, it's your fault.
It's not Scripture's fault. Also.
The question is what would he say about the Rambam in Hilchos Mamrim? I'm not sure about that. Now, we move on to our next Rambam, third Rambam. Okay, so it's actually our fourth because we've had the Rambam in Tshuva. So we've had the Rambam in Tshuva, Hilchos Tshuva. We've had the Rambam in Mamrim, and now we're going to see a Rambam in Hilchos Shchita. And this really throws a spanner in the works. And I'm going to just read and quickly translate it, and I don't think we'll have time today to comment very much. 3 halachas in Rambam Hilchos Shchita Perek Dalet. Let me go through them quickly. Yisrael mumel aveira me'aveira shehoya mumcha. If there is a yid who regularly is over an aveira, so as long as I have somebody who is able to check the knife, then that's okay. However, that's if he's a mummer to, I don't know, speaking Chazar Sashatz or whatever. But for imoy a mummer avodah zara, oy mechal Shabbos b'fahesya, oy apikoros, v'hu hakofer b'Torah b'Moshe Rabbeinu, hareu ka'akum u'shchitasoi nevela. So if a sheichet is mechal Shabbos b'fahesya, or he denies the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu, or Torah Shebal Peh, he has the halacha of a goy, and if he shechts, his shchita is nevela. Very clear. Next halacha. Mi shehu posel edus ba'aveira minu averus shel Torah. What would be if somebody is posel edus? Because he's I don't know, he's a Rasha, he's got a din of a Rasha. It's a whole simon in Choshen Mishpat, simon Lamadalad, famous, right? So he carries a shechet beinol ben atzmai. And this is okay, you know what, we don't need this halacha, we can leave it out. Now, here, halacha tezayin. Elu hatzidukin v'habaitusin v'talmidehen. The tzidukim and the baitusim and their talmidim v'chol hatoyim achareim. And all of those that make the mistake afterwards. So the same as the karoim. Exactly the same subject as the people that we spoke about in Hilchos Mamrim, correct? She'eino ma'aminim b'toira shebal peh, shchitoson asura. Shchitoson asura. Before he said, somebody that is kofer b'toira b'Moshe Rabbeinu is ka'akum u'shchitosoi nevela. What does the Rambam say? Somebody who is a reform, let's say, his shchita is osur. Different lashon. I'm just pointing that out before we go any further, right? Ve'im shochatu b'fanenu harezu muteres. However, if this reform Jew, if this karoi shechted in front of us, it's perfectly fine. She'ein isu shchitason ela shemo yikalkalu. The problem is they don't have ne'emonus because they don't think it's important. You know, when you do shchita, you have to make sure there's 4 main things, yeah? You've all learnt it, you don't do shchita, okay? Ikur, agroma, chalada, whatever, drisa. So you need to, it's an art, but you need your shamayim. So if you are somebody that doesn't believe in the importance of Torah Shebal Peh, so the 4 main things which are to do with shchita, which can make it the hair's breadth, the difference between making it an avela, we don't trust you. You have no nemonos because it's not important to you. However, if there's an expert sheikhet standing there and watching what you did, no problem. Glat kosher.
So there's a
Harezu muteres. Says the Rambam, she'ein isur shchitason elo shemo yikalkalu. The only problem is maybe they'll do it wrong. Ve'hemeinu maminim b'toras hashchita lefichoch ein nemonim lo yimalei kilkalnu. So therefore they have no ne'emonus to say, but if we had a good sheikhet standing there and watching what they did, I have a reform, karoi, who does not believe in Torah Shebal Peh, and he does shchita, but there's an expert there who says that was a great shchita. Perfectly kosher.
but
Makes sense.
But then from that we must learn that in the first case when we have a koifer beikar, right, who is different to the tzedukim, and there stands a expert shochet and watches him, it would be still nevela.
Correct.
So then there's a difference in the.
Can it go
How-
to shchita if a Jew stands by?
No.
Exactly. So
No.
it's like akum.
So
Yeah.
how do we understand? How are we going to understand? How does halacha Yudalad and halacha Tezayin fit together? And we have a contradiction between these 2 Rambams within themselves. On the one hand, he says somebody is apikoros, and he's a kofer b'Torah u'b'Moshe Rabbeinu. He's a goy shchitasei nevela. He then goes on to say, but the tzidukim and the baitusim and all of those who make the mistake, they make a mistake afterwards. They don't believe in Torah Shebal Peh. How are they different to the first guy? Because they made a mistake. You must say they made a mistake. So somebody who makes a mistake, that's the fellow in Hilchos Mamrim.
But then
He's absolutely a yid. L'chol davar.
But then you also can go back to the Marichet HaMishnah, and then you say also the one who is like a.
Sorry, we're trying to understand the Rambam. We're trying to understand the Merkavas HaMishnah is a mafarish on the Rambam. We're trying to make the different Rambams compatible. We have a Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva, we have the Rambam in Hilchos Mamrim, and this is the 3rd Rambam. Do all of these Rambams fit together? How could we make these Rambams fit together? Again, what do we have in Hilchos Tshuva? The Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva that if you make a mistake in Emunah, you're gone. Right? You're a min, you're an kofer, and you're apikoros. In Hilchos Mamrim, he differentiates between those that start it off and do it davka, and those who come after them, the nebuch who come later. Question of how to learn this Rambam. How would the Briskerov, let's put it in all its glory. Today we're just going to do the question. Next week we'll start the answers. How will Reb Chaim or the Or Sameach understand this Rambam? Because you have here 2 Rambams here in Hilchos Shchita, virtually one after the other. On the one hand, he says somebody that is a kofer b'Torah u'b'Moshe Rabbeinu, he is halachically, it's like a goy shechts, shchitas in vela. Nothing will help. And then he goes on to say, but somebody who, these who are clearly a reference to what he said in Hilchos Mamrim, second